The school system in a large city had a program to help children keep up with their schoolwork during stays in the city's hospitals. One day, a teacher who was assigned to the program received a routine call asking her to visit a particular child. She took the child's name and room number and talked briefly with the child's regular class teacher. "We're studying nouns and adverbs in his class now," the regular teacher said. "I'd be grateful if you could help him understand them so he doesn't fall too far behind." The hospital program teacher went to see the boy that afternoon. No one had mentioned to her that the boy had been badly burned and was in a great deal of pain. Upset at the sight of the boy, she stammered as she told him, "I've been sent by your school to help you with nouns and adverbs." When she left, she felt she hadn't accomplished much. But the next day, a nurse asked her, "What did you do to that boy?" The teacher felt she must have done something wrong and immediately began to apologize. No, said the nurse. "You don't know what I mean. We've been worried about that little boy, but ever since yesterday, his whole attitude has changed. He's fighting back. He's responding to treatment. It's as though he decided to live." 2 weeks later, the boy explained that he had completely given up hope until the teacher arrived. Everything changed when he came to a simple realization. He expressed it this way: "They wouldn't send a teacher to work on nouns and adverbs with a dying boy, would they?" Such is the power of hope. Hope is the ability to look beyond the present circumstances to a better future. Claire Booth Luce said, "There are no hopeless situations. There are only people who have grown hopeless about them." I don't know if you've caught the Hunger Games. It's been on TV, and there's a wonderful quote from there with the president. He said, "Hope is the only thing stronger than fear." Hope is the only thing stronger than fear. Sometimes we give up hope when the same thing keeps happening over and over again to us. Why is this happening to us again? It's that feeling that we are powerless to change things in our lives. And I know it can be challenging. As we move into this Christmas season, Jesus gives us a special message about hope. The passage that Joan read in Matthew describes the humility that Jesus actually had. They were always expecting this very powerful, very, will lead the armies. He will lead people in changing. He'll kick the Romans out. They were expecting this highly powerful king that would lead them into a restoration of the land of Israel. But that's not how God was working. In fact, it was coming in a very quiet way, a very unassuming way. High-ranking officials were often referred to as servants of the king. Well, Jesus was described as the servant of God, God's emissary, so he would speak. Even today, those that work in the White House serve at the pleasure of the president. So it's the same thing. That's how Jesus was viewed, as God's representative, to share with a nation that was so hurting at that time. The passage then goes on to give Isaiah's description of the Messiah. God's servant will not campaign. He won't cry out in the streets or raise an army. Now, cry out in the streets at that time, many times people would go out, and I saw a gentleman out in Cartersville doing the same thing. Was standing in the middle of the square in Cartersville, preaching at the top of his lungs. And they had people at the time of Jesus that was doing the same thing. That somehow if I stand here and I shout long enough, and I quote scripture at you long enough, it's going to make a difference in your life. And Jesus was saying, no, that's not what this is about. I don't need to be out there crying out in the streets. It's a quiet and a simpler message. It's a transformative message. It doesn't come with a loud speech. It comes with a quiet whisper. That's why he was even telling the people at the beginning of the passage that she read, don't tell people where I am. Don't, just kind of keep it between us. This is one-on-one. And that's how he really approached his ministry. Is that he will not even hurt the weakest person, yet also he will demand that justice be done for all. He will give hope to all the people of the earth. He spread his message by simply doing what was right. How does hope work in your life? Do you ever have times when you totally give up on hope? You just don't, you can't see what's happening, or you're tired of this happening, or what's next? I caught myself in languaging, and I'm several of you have heard me say this, but I was feeling like after my husband passed, and there was so much to clean up, and so much, those of you that have had people that have passed on, and all of a sudden you're having to do it all, where you're used to having a partner. And I was using the language, I was feeling dumped on. I corrected myself when there was a water break in the condominium above me, and all this water came down. And I was literally dumped on. I said, no, we're going to change this. Watch your language. Put it into something more. I'm feeling a little overworked right now. I no longer feel dumped on. But watch your language. You can actually create exactly that. So, but hope is something that is a challenge to us sometimes. We want to see that there's more to what's going on in life than what we're seeing right now. Can we look at our challenges differently? Maybe that's where the key is. That maybe the challenges in our lives are something that we need for our own spiritual growth. That we are attracting them to us because there's something in us that needs to be expressed. They're not something to bring anything out, or they're there to bring something out in us that we wouldn't find any other way. And we may come kicking and screaming while we're doing this, but it's reaching to that point when we realize these are our life lessons for our spiritual growth. Maybe we can feel more at peace with this. Maybe we know with God's help, and it opens our minds and hearts, and we're working with prayer, and we're working with community, and we're working in many ways possible that we can offer hope to other people. Just think about it a minute. Hope is not what's going on out there. Hope is what's going on in here. It's what's going on that we can change our out there, but first we start with what's going on in here. When we change in here, then we can deal with what's being presented to us out there. And we realize that sometimes surrender is the best thing we can do for hope. Just allow God to work through the details. And we're willing to be open to the possibility that we don't have all the answers. That maybe the answers are going to come through if we just let go and let God. How many times do you say that? I just let go and I let God. It's not that the little boy in the hospital was suddenly healed. What shifted was that inside he now knew that he could heal if he tried. And that maybe, just maybe, there was more going on here than he was feeling at the time. The visiting teacher was none too sure. She certainly was feeling very insecure. I know when I've gone to hospitals and on hospital visits, sometimes I've been very unsure of how I can support these families or support the person that's there. One time, I went to visit a young man who was had a bad car accident right here on Sandy Plains Road, and he was all bandaged up. And all of a sudden, I was standing there with his mother, and of course, everyone was scared to death. And suddenly what burst out of me was, it's going to be all right. I don't know how, but it's going to be all right. And his mom told me later that suddenly she relaxed. Suddenly it felt like, just because I said so, that it was going to be all right, that magically it was going to be all right. I was kicking myself as I walked back out to the car. I'm going, you know better than that. You don't know how God's going to work through this. You're just here to support. Well, I guess it was about 2 months later, I was at an event at Unity North, and this young man walked up to me, and he looked familiar, but I wasn't sure, and it was the young man that had been in that bed. Totally recovered. And he told me, he said, Mom told me that you said I was going to be all right. So I decided I was going to be. And I go, thank you, God. I don't have the magic cure-all here, but maybe that's how we can reach out and just support people in knowing something beyond what the fear is holding them to at that moment. I know when I was in the hospital, and I was in so much pain with the cancer. And I had doctors lined up out the hallway. I had so many people coming in to treat me because I was in critical condition. I collapsed. I was barely functioning as to what was going on around. And I remember one doctor said, "This is treatable." And that's what I held on to. Even when hospice came in to talk to me, all I can remember was, well, wait a minute, I have a doctor that said this is treatable. Let's not get to hospice until we treat it. Duh, you know. And I call it the divine duh. And so here I am a year and a half later. And for those that have seen me, but you all have seen me. I mean, I was in the walker, I was on a cane. Joan, you won't be on that walker very long. You know, you're already so far past the walker. It's just incidental right now until your body catches up where your mind and your heart is. Yeah. But it's just having that hope, and it could be some simple little statement. It doesn't take much. Someone that can hold the space. And I know when I was first diagnosed with breast cancer, this is back in the late 90s, I first had my first bout with this. One of the things I did was call 3 people that I knew would not do drama. I said, I want you to hold the high watch. I intend to join you. I'm going to go do a little drama for a while. My job is to join you. I don't need you joining me. The idea was to move beyond my fear and beyond, it was terrifying. I mean, Scott and I just held each other and cried the day I got that diagnosis. But I needed someone to just have that higher watch for me, and knowing that I was going to move beyond the fear and move to be where they were. And that's the power of hope. Knowing that something else is possible. Think of the power of a laser beam. It's not very broad in its spectrum. It's a very narrow stream. Who can you touch in the world and let them know you care? Let them know I'm holding the high watch for you. I'm here seeing you get better, and I'm just holding that vision. I want you to join me there. That's offering hope. Just being kind to another person, or even the gift of a smile, or just reaching out to say, I join you in seeing things change for the better. That can inspire the miracle of hope in anyone. Hope moves us beyond fear, beyond depression, and invites God into the situation. We don't even need to know how it works, and that's the interesting part. Anybody here like micromanage your life? You want to know how every little step is going to, yeah. Here's the hardest part of that, is letting go and realizing that God is going to work it a different way. It's like the difference in seeing when they were expecting this macho Jesus, instead got this gentle, kind teacher, who had a message that is still 2,000 years later, still here for all of us. So God works in a different way. It's a quiet way. It's a gentle way. It's a quiet whisper in our ear that says, it's going to be all right. You're going to make it through. In one of the series of the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, what is that series? Narnia. I think it was in the 3rd episode of that. One thing it kind of fascinated me, where they got on this island and things were invisible. But once they opened the door, and then they could find, there were all kind of magic going on. And I thought, maybe that's the way it is. We just keep doing, and when we get to the place, and a door will open with an invisible thing that we can't see that's going to solve the situation. But we've got to keep moving. We got to keep doing what we need to do, so that we'll be in the right place when the door opens with the answer to whatever our situation is. Fear will paralyze us. And it's so easy to stay stuck in fear, stay stuck in the emotions. But when we open ourselves up and just keep moving, keep doing, we will arrive at the place where suddenly that door will open, and something that we have never seen or could imagine will come in and help move us beyond our fears and resolve the situation. That's the miracle of hope. Hope is not the light at the end of the tunnel. Hope is knowing that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Hope is knowing that each of us has the ability to make it there, and then when we share it, we arrive there, let's share it with someone else. That's so important. Not joining them in the drama. Drama is drama, and that just keeps us stuck. When we can join with someone saying, I'm holding the high watch that something different is going to happen for you. Something miraculous is going to happen. Whatever the situation that's bothering you, it's going to be resolved, but you don't need to know how. Just know that it is, and you have another person holding that high watch with you. It works wonders in your life. Paul, in his letter to the Romans, put it this way. Now may the God of hope fill you with joy and peace, so that by faith you may abound in hope. By faith may you abound in hope. And this is where our faith comes in. That we can move beyond whatever limitations, whatever is holding us back. That we hold, there's an abounding faith that God is working, and always have that hope, because God is at work, guiding us every step of the way. May each and every one of us be filled with the miracle, the life-changing power of hope this Christmas. Share it, own it for yourself, or share it with another person. I can't imagine a better Christmas gift that you can give another person this year than to say, let me join you. Let me hold the high watch for you. Let me be there for you. What a powerful gift you can give this Christmas time. Such is the power and the miracle of hope. Thank you. Namaste.